The Hulk is one of the strongest characters in all of Marvel. His true power is close to limitless, as he'll always become stronger the angrier he gets. And trust me, there's a lot to be angry about in the Marvel Universe, so his rage knows no bounds. But just because the Hulk is nearly unbeatable, it doesn't mean he hasn't been beaten. In fact, there are a good amount of Marvel characters that the Green Rage monster has never been able to defeat. Just who are these characters and why did Hulk lose or continue to lose to them? Well, that's what I want to discuss today, so let's get into it right now. So first up on this list has to be Thanos, aka the Mad Titan, aka Harry Styles' brother. Not just because Thanos has beaten the Hulk a bunch in the comics, but also because he delivered the Hulk his worst beatdown in the MCU. The opening minutes of Infinity War are absolutely savage. Basically, we see everything Thor has worked for since the first movie get taken away from him. The recently crowned King of Asgard sees a lot of his people slaughtered, and his best friend Heimdall and his newly redeemed brother Loki get absolutely wrecked right in front of his eyes. Or I guess it's still just eye at that point. Anyway, this scene really sets the stage for Thanos and shows what a dangerous threat he is. Sure, he can stand there and look menacing all he wants, but we all know actions speak louder than words. That's why what happens next is so frightening. Hulk, who had apparently been hiding and waiting for someone to cue him in, finally gets a chance to fight after Loki says the "we have a Hulk" line. And because of the element of surprise, Hulk looks like he's more than a match for Thanos. But once the Mad Titan is able to take a breath and think, hey, what's this giant green monster that's attacking me, he's able to turn the tides. With relative ease, Thanos delivers a few brutal punches to Hulk in quick succession, proving that he's both fast and strong. Just a few hits to his body and face and Hulk is more dazed than he's ever been. Thor never hurt Hulk like this, neither did Abomination or any other of the big threats like the Chitauri or Ultron's drones. Heck, even when the fire demon Surtur smacked Hulk away, the Hulk was able to shrug this off with relative ease. But not this fight. Thanos totally decimated Hulk in a way no MCU villain has ever done, and on top of that, hurt him so bad that Hulk didn't come out for the rest of the movie. Sure, if you listen to the Russo brothers, the reasoning behind this is because Hulk just didn't want to fight Banner's battles anymore, but come on. Hulk's reluctance totally plays as him being scared after such a quick and horrible beatdown. And yes, while the rest of this list will focus more on comic entries, I wanted to start off with Hulk's worst loss in the MCU. And on top of that, comic Hulk hasn't had much better luck with comic Thanos either. Yes, Hulk in the comics is arguably stronger than MCU Hulk, but so is comic Thanos. Comic Thanos always has some type of artifact or weapon whenever he fights Hulk that makes him win pretty easily. Maybe someday, Hulk. The Silver Surfer is a character who fans desperately want to see done justice in live action. Admittedly, he had an awesome design in the second Fantastic Four movie, Rise of the Silver Surfer, but it's just a shame that the movie around the character was such a dud. And some people might see the Silver Surfer and wonder just what the big deal is, but fans of the comics know just what a complex and tragic character Norrin Radd truly is. He's also incredibly powerful and has delivered the beatdown on Hulk quite a few times in the past. It's mainly because the Silver Surfer has been granted the power cosmic, which is a vast source of limitless cosmic energy by Silver Surfer's go-to master, Galactus. This makes the Sky Rider of the Spaceways almost unbeatable. In the times when he's gone up against the Hulk, sometimes Silver Surfer wins in an incredibly complex way, like the time Silver Surfer removed the gamma radiation around the Hulk, thus temporarily removing the Hulk completely, or in an incredibly blunt way where he just smacks the Hulk with a surfboard. Either way, during one-on-one fair fights, Hulk has never won before. And yes, there is one exception. During the Planet Hulk storyline, Hulk did just pummel Silver Surfer and technically won, but I count this one with a grain of salt. Silver Surfer was being controlled at the time by a mind-controlling obedience disc, and he wasn't quite himself or operating at his normal level of strength. Plus, Hulk wasn't exactly alone in this fight and had help, which put Silver Surfer at an even greater disadvantage. So if it came down to mano-a-mano fight with both of the characters working at full capacity, then yes, Silver Surfer wins. That's like saying, yeah, I can beat Thor, but only if Thor just fought Hela a few minutes earlier and is wearing one of those shock collars from Sakaar. Doesn't really count as a clean win, right? The list for main characters that we want to see in the MCU continues to dwindle now that we're in phase 4 of the massive superhero franchise, but still sitting comfortably near the top of that list is Robert Reynolds, aka Sentry. Now, if Sentry is ever introduced in the MCU, he'd basically be like Superman with a dark twist. He's incredibly powerful, with the assumed strength of 1,000,000 exploding suns, and wants to be a good guy. But the downside is that the stronger he gets, the stronger the evil version of himself called the Void gets. It's why in the comics, Sentry and Bruce Banner have formed a unique bond and friendship as they're kindred spirits in a way. Both have incredible power that they're afraid to lose control of one day. So yeah, you can imagine the fight between these two Goliaths would get messy, and that's exactly what happened. During the World War Hulk storyline, which saw an angry, vengeful Hulk return to Earth to seek revenge against all those who sent him away in the first place, the Sentry was basically the last line of defense. Hulk was mowing through heroes left and right, and it was up to Sentry to finally stop the unstoppable. The fight was cataclysmic. Both fighters were just unleashing devastating blow after devastating blow. And even though the Hulk was at his strongest, he still couldn't quite definitively beat the Sentry for good. The fight technically ended as a stalemate, as eventually a massive satellite blast reverted both Sentry and Hulk to their human forms, and the fight ended with Banner landing a final punch against Reynolds. So that's technically a win for Banner, not for the Hulk. Sorry Hulk, you tried your best. Although it looks like Hulk and Thor are relatively evenly matched in terms of strength, that doesn't mean Hulk can just stomp around beating up gods. There's one god in particular that Hulk has never actually beaten, and it's never even been close. Zeus is the top dog for Greek gods, and his power is almost immeasurable. So how did their big confrontation go? Well, after the events of Chaos War, Hulk wanted Zeus to use his power to heal Hulk's family. Hulk thought that it was the least he could do after Hulk's family helped stop the Chaos King, and really, he's not wrong. But his approach could have used a little work. He basically stormed Mount Olympus and demanded that Zeus help him. Hulk was so adamant here that he wasn't going to leave until he got what he wanted. Or so he thought. What happens next is one of the most savage beatdowns the Hulk has ever gotten. First, Zeus hurls lightning at Hulk, but Hulk is all like, "Hey, what gives? Fight me like a man." And Zeus agrees to hand-to-hand combat. If you think this evens the playing field, it doesn't. Hulk lands one punch, but then Zeus absolutely destroys Hulk with a series of devastating blows. The worst of which is the one where Zeus punches Hulk's ribs and Hulk pukes out most of his bloody insides. Yeah, it's not pleasant. And that's not even the worst part. You would think Zeus would be satisfied with completely embarrassing the Hulk here, but the Greek god takes it one step farther by tying Hulk's body to a rock and letting vultures eat him just slowly enough so the Hulk's healing factor stops him from perishing. This is why I want a character like Zeus in the MCU. Not only would it be an excellent foil for Thor, but you could recreate a version of this battle and it would be incredible. Well, maybe it would be a little sad to see Hulk puke his guts out literally, but you never know. Maybe an MCU fight would go differently. Yeah, I know, this video is about Marvel characters who the Hulk has never beaten, but I want to talk about the Hulk versus Batman for a second. I promise, this is just a slight detour, and we'll get back to your regularly scheduled Marvel programming in just a second. But again, it's Hulk versus Batman. How could I not talk about that? And yes, this actually happened once. Every so often, there's a Marvel and DC crossover that pits the two worlds against each other, and this particular issue saw Hulk and Batman come to blows. What's interesting about this fight is that it's the ultimate brute strength versus tactical advantage type of brawl. There's no way in a million years that Batman could ever beat Hulk in a fist fight, and more likely than not, Hulk will never outthink or outmaneuver Batman. So what wins out here? Well, let's discuss. The issue sees Bruce Banner working for Wayne Research and developing a gamma gun that's designed to cure disease. Of course, the dastardly Joker shows up and ruins everything, causing Banner to transform into Hulk. Then the Joker convinces Hulk that Batman is the true enemy, and the two start fighting. Of course, Batman can't overpower Hulk here, so he tries to use knockout gas against the Rage Monster. Now, because this is an 80s comic, it's just a tad bit silly. Hulk laughs at this knockout gas plan and just holds his breath to avoid breathing it in. Batman counters this by putting all his energy into one single full power kick right into Hulk's solar plexus, which causes Hulk to breathe in the gas and then faint. Would this same thing happen in modern times? Probably not, but it still counts as Batman 1, Hulk 0. And I like the idea of someone being clever enough to beat the Hulk. It gives me hope that someone like Hawkeye in the actual Marvel Universe has a chance. If you ask fans to name two heroes that they want to see fight on screen, one of the top choices would definitely be Hulk versus Wolverine. There's such a rich, deep history between the two of them in the comics, with their fights being some of the most savage, brutal, and awesome brawls in all of Marvel. I want this mostly because it's such an interesting matchup. I mean, you have the rampaging, unstoppable beast that is the Hulk fighting the indestructible mutant, and that just always makes for a good time. And while yes, Hulk has definitely beaten Wolverine a few times, he hasn't beaten every version of Wolverine. Let me explain. The Old Man Logan timeline is an alternate version where the supervillains have overthrown the superheroes. In this universe, there's a fight between Hulk and Old Man Logan, and that's one for the record books. This version of the Hulk is evil and insane, and the fight is just as savage as you'd expect. It seemingly ends with Hulk literally devouring Old Man Logan, leaving nothing left. After getting eaten, Old Man Logan's healing factor allows for the character to regenerate inside the Hulk, and when he's fully healed, Logan literally bursts out of him to take the W. On second thought, maybe I don't want to see a version of this fight in the MCU. That's a lot of green guts that I'm not sure I can handle. I said earlier that Sentry is sorta like Marvel's version of Superman because of his immense strength and general style, but there's actually another who probably fits that mold better, and that's Hyperion. There are a few different versions of Hyperion running around in alternate timelines in different series, some of which are heroes and some of which are villains. But the general gist still remains the same. He was created to basically be a version of Superman in the Marvel comics. Now, the Hulk and Hyperion have fought a few times, and Hulk has won at least once, but that was a different version of Hyperion. The character I am specifically talking about in this entry has delivered multiple defeats to the Hulk all in the same fight. Let me explain. In the recent comic storyline Heroes Reborn, it follows a different universe where, for some mysterious reason, the Avengers never formed and the Squadron Supreme are the main superhero team on Earth. Though as characters like the Hulk start realizing the world isn't right and something is wrong, Hyperion has to make the tough choice to take Hulk down. It's a pretty even fight, but then Hyperion has no choice but to use his laser vision and fry Hulk's brains. And here's the really tragic part. Thanks to the Hulk's healing factor, the green rage monster keeps coming back to life. So Hyperion has to laser Hulk's brain over 20 times until finally it can't heal anymore. Oh wait, no, this is the really tragic part. As Hulk's brain turns into pudding, his last words are him calling out to Steve Rogers for help because he doesn't understand what's happening. Yeah, as I said, brutal. Hey, what you have to remember is that in comics, there are oftentimes a ton of misunderstandings or lack of communication that leads to fights. I mean, it happens in superhero movies as well. I think Batman v Superman and even Captain America Civil War could have been avoided if all the characters just sat around one Saturday night, ordered a bunch of pizza, and hashed out their differences instead of punching each other in the face. Anyway, I mention this because a misunderstanding is what led to Hulk getting owned by the mutant Havoc. In one comic storyline, Hulk is just rambling along when suddenly he spots the mutant known as Polaris. Now, the green hair that Polaris has throws Hulk off, and he thinks Polaris is actually Jarilla, the princess of a subatomic kingdom that Hulk had a previous relationship with. He kidnaps Polaris, and that invokes the wrath of Havoc, who goes on to rescue his fellow mutant. The showdown is pretty epic. The Hulk rips out a huge piece of rock to smack Havoc down, but before Hulk can do anything, Havoc shoots a focused beam of energy right at Hulk's head. It's so powerful that Hulk doesn't know what hit him. His energy quickly drains and he collapses, reverting back to his banner form. Then, hilariously, Havoc and Polaris just sort of leave without giving the Hulk another thought. The Marvel Universe is so big that it's often fun to mix and match with different heroes and villains. Like, you think comic writers ever go, hey, superhero X has never faced supervillain Y, so let's find a way to make that happen? I mean, I would. This is why I like talking about the time Hulk fought Carnage, because that's a fun matchup. Well, at least fun for us. Probably not fun for the Hulk. In their encounter during the Absolute Carnage storyline, things got a little wild. Not only was Carnage possessed by one of Null's Grendel symbiotes in a way that made him even stronger as Dark Carnage, but also the fight saw Hulk being possessed by the Venom symbiote. The end result isn't pretty, as Dark Carnage whooped Venom Hulk's butt and stole the Venom symbiote for himself. Yeah, not pretty, and you have to wonder if Hulk wasn't possessed by the Venom symbiote, would he have had a better chance? Probably not. A few different characters have been Ghost Rider in the past, and while Hulk has fought and dispatched the Robbie Reyes version relatively easily, the Johnny Cage version is not one the Hulk has been able to beat. This was most apparent in the World War Hulk storyline when Ghost Rider stood in Hulk's path. The angry, rampaging Hulk couldn't overpower or beat Ghost Rider, but that doesn't necessarily mean a clear victory for Flaming Skullhead. The demon inside Ghost Rider actually judged Hulk innocent during this event, and this fight leading to Ghost Rider straight up abandoning the fight without a clear-cut victor. But I mean, if Hulk wasn't able to win on strength and only secured the victory because Ghost Rider's heart wasn't in it, then I think that counts as a Hulk defeat.